UFOs, cattle mutilations, ghosts, poltergeist activity, crop circles, cryptozoology, Bigfoot, reptilian creatures, and giant wolves, all coming up to you right now as we discover the Skinwalker Ranch. Welcome to another episode of Paranormal TV, where we discuss in story format things strange, weird, UFOs, ghosts, paranormal, poltergeists, cryptozoology, ancient secrets, missing people, murders, witchcraft, and sorcery. Normally I discuss these episodes with my lovely partner Louie, who is not with me today. In the past videos we've been sharing our personal journey together in discussing the strange and weird, and how we were together in a haunted house for a while, our studies in the occult and strange and mysterious, and the last video I made was our own personal UFO experiences, and the last one was where we experienced something together in or near the Mount White Way station on the way from Sydney to the Central Coast. Recently, Post Malone, the music personality, went out to the new owner's site. Well, not the new owner's site. What am I saying? Brandon Frugal recently purchased the Skinwalker Ranch from the society that used to own it, which was Robert Bigelow's research society, the billionaire Robert Bigelow, who's into aerospace and a whole bunch of stuff. And Post Malone went out there on, get this, February being the second month, the 21st of 2021. What's with those weird numbers? Conspiracy theory much? So there was a book published by Colm A. Keller. He's a very interesting guy with a PhD in bioscience, virus study, aerospace, life support systems on spacecraft, and George Knapp, who's a journalist that often shows up on Coast to Coast AM radio and has been the host of many paranormal and UFO type TV shows. And it's believed that the History Channel is going to be doing, or is currently started, a documentary on the hunt for the Skinwalker. So the research facility got involved in the mid to late 90s, and the ranch is about 3 hours drive from Salt Lake City in Utah. This cattle ranch is probably the most well known in media and the biggest paranormal hotspot on the whole planet. The authors reveal in a radio interview on Coast to Coast that between 1994 and 1996, Terry and Gwen Sherman, who were cattle ranchers, were looking for a place to grow and raise prize cattle. We're talking about Angus beef type cattle, very high end, and experts in artificial insemination and all the things needed to grow very expensive bulls for breeding purposes, etc. They were in a small country town and looking to get away from that town, because people in country towns, you know, everyone knows what colour underwear you wear because someone looked over your clothesline and saw your red boxer shorts on the clothesline, and now the whole town knows what colour your underwear is. So they were looking for this ranch, and they went out to a place that's a little bit off the beaten track, and to the couple it looked like a wonderful idea to finally purchase a good size property of 512 acres, not too far from Salt Lake City, 3 hours drive, and just the perfect spot. But something strange was going on at this ranch, and it started on the first day. The Aboriginal tribes in the area, the Ute Indian tribe, would often tell people to stay away and avoid the area because it was known as the path of the Skinwalker. I'm glad you asked. So a skinwalker is apparently a black shaman. So a shaman is a person who works with herbs and spiritual remedies for problems, and kind of like the sorcerer of the local tribe. But a skinwalker is one who has moved over to the dark side and only works with demonic forces. On day one, the father and son pull up in the truck to notice an extremely large wolf. This wasn't an ordinary wolf. It was grey and ragged looking, but quite peaceful and kind of tame. It was the size of a small horse. The couple got out of the truck, the ute, to check out this animal as it was approaching the fence. And it had set its eyes on a small calf and stuck its head through the fence and lunged at the calf, grabbing the neck. So Dad jumps out of the ute, the truck, with a baseball bat and starts laying into this weird looking wolf, and it's not flinching. The son then grabs a Magnum, 357 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and launches 3 shots into this wolf, and it's still not moving. Dad grabs a hunting rifle, a 306, and plants another several shots into the animal, with chunks of flesh flying off. This thing is not moving. It finally lets go of the calf and casually walks out of the area. The 2 guys are beside themselves. They walk up to where the giant wolf was, and they see pieces of flesh that had come off from the bullet shots, blowing chunks of animal flesh off this giant wolf. And they pick up the pieces and realise that there's no blood on them, and it had looked like someone had sliced off meat and left it out for a couple of days. They then followed the tracks in the dirt to where this wolf had gone off into the scrub, and found that the tracks just disappeared. That wasn't the only time they'd experienced these large wolves. A couple of weeks later, the wife of the family was coming home from shopping in town, drives up to the front gate and turns to realise that there's another one of these giant horse-sized wolves standing right next to the car. And she's totally freaking out, but turns around and then it's just disappeared out of nowhere. On another occasion, one evening, Mr. Sherman is out on the porch, just sitting in the chair. He's got some cattle dogs sitting next to him, and a blue orb about the size, a bit smaller than a soccer ball, with an electrical field around it, starts hovering around the fields. And this isn't the first time this has happened. And Mr. Sherman's kind of a bit at the end of his rope. The dogs are barking and carrying on. And normally he's very protective of his family and animals on the property. But this time he just decides, well, hey, just let's see what happens. He lets the dogs go. So they're chasing and weaving after this electric ball of light that's hovering around in the sunset, and it sort of goes off into some thicket, some bush, and then he hears some terrible blood-curdling screams and yelps from the dogs. He knows in his mind already what has happened to his precious cattle dogs, but decides to just go to bed. He wakes up, gets up early the next day, and follows the tracks as to where they went off into the scrub. And to his absolute sickening astonishment, he finds 3 areas with flattened grass. Like I can imagine from what the the interviewers were the journalists were talking about, the authors of the book, that these were kind of like a crop circle type thing, and they were just puddles of grey mush that used to be dogs. In addition to the orb phenomena, there were orbs of different colours, red ones and blue ones mainly, but weird creatures sighted on the property. In addition, UFOs flying over, everything from the Phoenix Lights 3 triangular lit UFO to the X-Files poster I Want to Believe style UFO to just strange balls of light dancing in the sky. In addition, there were some other more poltergeist type activities that affected Mrs. Sherman, where she would have been into town, brings the shopping home, comes into the house, takes the shopping out of the bags, puts it in the cupboard, goes into the lounge room to do something, comes back out, and everything is back on the island, the kitchen island. Other things, strange things that happened to her was she'd get ready to go have a shower, lay out the towel, her hairbrush, get in the shower, jump out of the shower to get the towel, and the brush and the towel are just completely missing. Another incident that happened that was kind of something between poltergeist and UFO was the people in the house one evening sort of sitting around and noticed some headlights, a group of lights, like a camper van or recreational vehicle, RV as the Americans call them, with some, spotlights and things, and it had come in from the driveway, sort of maneuvered down onto the front paddock, and assumedly the family have said, look, someone's come in from the road because it's a little bit off the track, they've probably read the map wrong or something, got lost, ended up in our paddock, better just run out and see what's going on, if we can help them get back on the road. So a couple of people in the family run out and they see these lights sort of in the paddock, but the lights then break up and disappear into the sky. Other things would go missing. For example, Mr. Sherman would be out with his post hole digger setting up a fence. A post hole digger is like a cross between a jackhammer and a drill, with an auger bit on the bottom designed that you hold it against the dirt and you turn it on and it churns up the dirt and creates a hole for a fence post. It might have gotten stuck and he's gone, just go and get a drink, turn around, and the whole device would be missing, and it would show up later in a tree. The family got so intensely concerned with the poltergeist stuff, the missing articles, the strange wolves and birds and creatures, that they decided to all sleep in one room for safety. But it didn't stop. They would be hearing discarnate voices making whisperings in foreign languages that no one quite understood, in a quite mocking tone. So the family were there from 94 to 96, and during the latter half of 1996, that's when the NIDS team became very interested and decided that they would purchase the ranch, and the family were just absolutely over the moon to finally get out of this hellhole. That they spent some time together with the research team. So this was a team of scientists and George Knapp, the reporter, that spent some time on the ranch as well. But while they were there on the ranch, the team would follow them around to understand the goings on and how to operate the farm properly. There was one day that Mr. Sherman was out with one of the NIDS team, and they were tagging the cattle ears, put the plastic tag on the cattle. They've done one cow, moved on to the next one, maybe 100 meters, turned around after they heard the sound of the first cow just collapse on the ground. They've come running back to this cow and realised that it has been sliced up with a sharp instrument. It's got ribs hanging out. It's got its internal organs completely missing. And it happened in split seconds. Looking around, they couldn't see any footsteps. They actually hired an Indian tracker guy to come and check out what he might imagine had happened. They covered all their bases. They took every crime scene, like the cattle mutilation, with absolute scientific rapport, using all the research methods available to them, not excluding forensic and lab reports. They sent samples to labs that had come back and said that, look, the animal's been sliced up with a very sharp instrument, like a surgically honed precision instrument, and not really messing around, taking every care and determination to find reasonable solutions to what was going on on the ranch. So other strange things that happened to the research team after they were moving in and working together with the Sherman family was that the team had set up cameras all around the perimeter of the property. It's quite a big area that detected all different types of spectrums of light and these kinds of things. And they had a big video screen with little frames in there, like you would see on CCTV, to look at all the cameras. And one night, the screens were just turning off, one after the other. Zap, 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 just like in a strange order. And they actually took the time to quickly get one of the other cameras to focus on the cameras that were going out, and they zoomed in with the digital technology on the system so close in that they could see the red light that normally sits under a CCT camera, and just see the lights go out. They went out really quickly, just 1, 2, 3. The researchers went out the next day in the morning to find out what had happened to the cameras. And the cameras had been put up on top of these poles with stage tape or gaffer tape. I know what that stuff's like. It had been baking in the sun and it was hard. And it had been ripped down as something had ripped the cables out. They saw nothing on the video. It was invisible, whatever was doing this. And it just systematically ripped the cables out of the backs of the cameras and left them hanging down. And it did it so quickly that it would have been impossible for a human to climb up a pole and then pull out the wire and then go to the next one. It was like it was leaping from one camera to the other. On another occasion, early evening, the sun's going down, the family and the NIDS team are in the command centre within the house, and they notice that there's a tree rustling, shaking violently. Underneath the tree is a kind of Bigfoot type creature, and up in the tree are these big yellow eyes, kind of like Mothman type thing. They can't really see what it is, so they grab the guns and they run out to this tree, and they're firing shots at where they can see these luminous eyes. The creature that's beneath the tree, the Bigfoot creature, starts running off. The other thing that looks kind of reptilian falls out of the tree and runs off. They then go in hot pursuit with weapons to try and kill this thing, and then they just disappear in the darkness. They find later on that the only thing left is a very large 3-toed footprint in the mud after the snow, and that's it. It just disappears. So, as you can imagine, the family have really had it by now with the UFO stuff going on and the strange creatures and giant wolves and poltergeist activity. They've actually lost quite a few head of cattle due to the mutilations and cattle abductions. Just gone, animals just gone missing or dead. They they're coming back from town one day in the truck, and husband and wife, and they're sort of discussing just as they leave town. If we lose any more animals, we're bankrupt, we're finished. And it's like whatever was controlling all the weird stuff on the farm had some kind of ethereal intelligence as to what was going on. Because sure enough, they pull up into the first paddock, and all the cattle are gone. The husband and wife are totally freaking out at this point. In the middle of the paddock was a large shipping container type trailer thing, and the husband decides, let's look in there. And he put really heavy fence wire and wound it round the handles on this storage container. As he's opened it up, sure enough, the last 3 bulls are in the trailer, and they're like frozen stiff, like suspended animation, and they're stunned when they hear the noises of the doors opening up, and they like come back to waking consciousness and run out of the trailer. The NIDS research team weren't Ghostbusters. They didn't go in there with your typical guys on YouTube with the typical ghost busting stuff, the radio box and things like that. They were funded by a billionaire. They went in there with all the latest high-tech stuff. And there was one incident where there was some noise that was happening in an underground drain on the property, and a couple of the researchers went down there with the infrared camera, and something was showing up on the infrared, crawling up this pipe that wasn't visible to the naked eye. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot of photos. Perhaps we'll see more in the History Channel documentary. The problem with the photos is that the research team, it was the property of NIDS, and the research team, the institute, is now closed. There isn't much video footage either, especially of our predator buddy that was in the drain pipe. So what do you think, guys? Interdimensional portal to outer space, or some other strange phenomenon like the Bermuda Triangle? We'll never really know. There are many more hotspots on the planet that I'll be discovering with you. I don't get anything out of this. This is just a great story, like my other great videos, for your entertainment. So please like and subscribe, and leave your comments below. Love to hear your feedback. Have a great day. Cheers. One more thing. Please check out our other videos, whether it's been myself and my partner Louie, our haunted house, our UFO stories, the strange things that have happened to her in her past when she was a kid growing up with a poltergeist-like thing living in the house. All great stories. My studies in the occult. I've got some things to show you a little bit later on, so subscribe so when they come up you'll be able to see them and share the shit out of the video. Thanks. Cheers.